My friends, we live in a world filled with uncertainty. Every day we face decisions, obstacles, and moments of doubt. Some of you listening right now are waiting for an answer, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a door to open. And in that waiting, the enemy whispers fear into your heart. He tells you that time is running out. He tells you that you are forgotten. But I'm here to tell you today, God has not forgotten you. He sees you. He knows your struggle, and He is preparing the right door at the right time, in the right way. The question is, will you trust Him? Will you hold on, even when you cannot see? God's timing is a mystery that often challenges our patience, yet it is always perfect. When we look at life, we see moments when things don't happen as quickly as we want. We pray, we work hard, we do everything we can, yet the breakthrough seems delayed. In those moments, it is easy to question whether God has heard our prayers or if He is even moving on our behalf. But what we fail to see is that God is never in a rush, and He is never late. He operates on a divine schedule that is far beyond human understanding. Every delay, every closed door, and every waiting season is orchestrated for a reason. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:01 that to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. This verse reminds us that life moves in divine order. Just as the seasons of nature change at the appointed time, so do the seasons of our lives. You cannot force winter to turn into spring before its time, and you cannot rush God's plan for your life before you are ready. The door you are waiting for will open at the precise moment it is meant to, not a second too early and not a second too late. One of the greatest struggles in life is trusting God's timing when our emotions and circumstances tell us otherwise. Waiting is not easy, especially in a world that teaches us to chase instant results. We live in a society where everything is fast-paced, fast food, fast communication, fast success. But God does not operate in human speed. He operates in divine purpose. What may seem like a delay to us is actually a period of preparation. God is not just working on the opportunity you are waiting for. He is working on you. He is shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and ensuring that when the right door does open, you will be ready to walk through it with wisdom and maturity. Many people in the Bible had to wait for God's perfect timing. Joseph was given a dream that he would one day be in a position of great power, yet he spent years in slavery and prison before that promise came to pass. If Joseph had rushed ahead of God's timing, he would not have been prepared to handle the responsibility that came with his position. David was anointed to be king as a young boy, but he had to wait years before he actually sat on the throne. During that time, he faced battles, betrayals, and hardships that prepared him for his destiny. Even Jesus Himself waited until the appointed time to begin His ministry. If the Son of God understood the importance of divine timing, how much more should we trust in it? Sometimes we confuse waiting with inaction, but waiting on God does not mean doing nothing. It means staying faithful, continuing to grow, and remaining obedient to what God has called us to do in the present. When a farmer plants seeds, he does not see an immediate harvest, but he does not panic. He knows that growth is happening beneath the surface, even though he cannot see it. In the same way, God is working behind the scenes in ways we cannot comprehend. When we try to rush God's process, we often make mistakes. Abraham and Sarah were promised a son, But when the promise took longer than they expected, they took matters into their own hands. Sarah gave her servant Hagar to Abraham, and Ishmael was born. But that was not God's promise. In the end, God still fulfilled his word, and Isaac was born in his perfect timing. However, the consequences of their impatience led to unnecessary struggles. This is a lesson for all of us. When we step ahead of God, we invite trouble. But when we wait on him, we receive his best. God's timing is not only about you, it is about all the people and circumstances connected to your destiny. The right door might not be open yet because someone else is still being positioned. The job you are praying for might not be available because God is still preparing the right leader to recognize your potential. The relationship you desire might be delayed because God is working on both you and the person he has chosen for you. Everything must align according to his divine plan, and when it does, it will be better than anything you could have orchestrated on your own. Faith is the key to enduring the waiting season. It is trusting that God is in control, even when you do not see movement. It is believing that every delay is working in your favor. It is resting in the knowledge that God sees the bigger picture, while you only see a small piece. Instead of letting impatience lead you to anxiety and frustration, let it push you closer to God. Use the waiting period to strengthen your relationship with him, to grow in wisdom, and to prepare yourself for what is coming. When the right time comes, everything will fall into place effortlessly. The doors that seemed locked will open with ease. The opportunities that seemed impossible will manifest before your eyes. And when you look back, you will realize that the wait was worth it because God's timing is always perfect. There are moments in life when doors seem to slam shut in front of us, leaving us frustrated, confused, and sometimes even heartbroken. We wonder why something we wanted so badly didn't work out. We question if we did something wrong, if we missed an opportunity, or if we weren't good enough. But what we often fail to see in those moments is that closed doors are not rejections from God. They are his divine protection. He sees what we cannot see. He knows what is ahead. And when he closes a door, it is because he is shielding us from something that is not meant for us or not good for us in the long run. When a door closes, it is natural to feel disappointed. Our human minds tend to focus on what we have lost rather than what God is doing behind the scenes. We mourn the missed job, the failed relationship, or the denied opportunity without realizing that God may have just saved us from something that could have destroyed us. He may have prevented us from stepping into a situation that would have drained our joy, our peace, or even our purpose. What looks like rejection is often a form of redirection. God is moving us away from something that is not part of his plan so that he can guide us towards something greater. In the Bible, we see many examples of God closing doors for a reason. Paul, one of the greatest apostles, wanted to preach the gospel in Asia, but in Acts 16:6-7, it says that the Holy Spirit prevented him from doing so. At first, it may have seemed confusing. Why would God stop someone from spreading his word? But later it became clear that God had a different assignment for Paul in Macedonia. If Paul had forced his way into Asia, he would have missed the divine opportunity waiting for him elsewhere. That is how God operates. He sees the full picture while we only see a small part. Sometimes we become so attached to what we think we want that we try to force open doors that God has already closed. We push, we fight, and we refuse to accept that something is not meant for us. But when we do this, we only bring unnecessary pain into our lives. It is like trying to wear shoes that are 2 sizes too small. They may look good on the outside, but they will only cause discomfort and harm. When God closes a door, He is not punishing us. He is protecting us from something that is not aligned with His best for us. There are times when a closed door is not about protecting us from harm, but about preparing us for something better. Just because something is not happening now does not mean it will never happen. Sometimes God closes a door because the timing is not right. You may have the right calling, but the wrong season. You may have the right desire, but the wrong circumstances. And because God is a God of order, He will not allow you to step into something before you are fully ready for it. His closed doors are often His way of telling us to wait, to grow, and to trust that what is meant for us will come at the appointed time. One of the hardest things to accept is when a relationship does not work out. Whether it is a friendship, a romantic relationship, or even a professional partnership, losing someone can feel like a deep wound. But what if that relationship was never meant to last? What if that person was only meant to be in your life for a season and not a lifetime? When God removes people from our lives, it is often because they cannot go where He is taking us. Holding on to the wrong relationships can block us from receiving the right ones. When a person walks away, or when a relationship ends, despite our best efforts, it may be God's way of making space for something better. Trusting in God's closed doors requires faith. It requires believing that God knows what is best for us, even when we do not understand. It requires surrendering our plans and desires to Him and acknowledging that His ways are higher than our ways. It means choosing to praise Him even when things do not go our way, knowing that every closed door is a step closer to the right one. Instead of seeing closed doors as setbacks, we need to start seeing them as setups. They are positioning us for something we cannot yet comprehend. They are removing distractions, eliminating the unnecessary, and making room for what is truly meant for us. Every time we experience disappointment, we have a choice. Will we let it make us bitter? Or will we trust that God is redirecting us to something better? Those who choose to trust in God's process will eventually see that every closed door was leading them to the open door that was always meant for them. Fear and worry have a way of creeping into our minds, especially when we are waiting for something to happen. We wonder if things will work out, if the opportunity will come, if the right people will show up, or if we are even on the right path. Worry can consume our thoughts, draining our energy and keeping us stuck in a cycle of doubt. But worry does not change anything. It does not speed up God's plan, nor does it make doors open any faster. In fact, it does the opposite. It clouds our faith, blinds us from seeing what God is doing, and steals the peace that He wants us to walk in. Faith, on the other hand, shifts our focus from what we cannot control to the one who controls everything. It reminds us that God is in charge, that He has already gone before us, and that He is working behind the scenes in ways we cannot see. The enemy knows that if he can fill our hearts with fear, he can weaken our faith. That is why he whispers lies, making us believe that we are running out of time or that nothing good is going to happen. He wants us to panic, to make impulsive decisions, and to lose sight of God's promises. But fear is not from God. The Bible says in 2 Timothy 1:7 that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That means fear is an attack, a tool the enemy uses to keep us from trusting in what God is doing. When we replace fear with faith, we take back our power. We refuse to be controlled by worry, and we step into the peace that God freely gives. Faith is not about having all the answers or knowing exactly how things will unfold. It is about trusting that God is leading the way, even when the path is unclear. It is about believing that He is working things out, even when nothing seems to be happening. It is about understanding that just because we cannot see progress does not mean progress is not happening. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing seems to be happening on the surface, but underneath, roots are growing, foundations are being laid, and eventually, at the right time, the plant breaks through the soil. That is how God's plan works. There is movement in the unseen, and when the time is right, everything will come together. Worry is often rooted in our desire for control. We want to know when things will happen, how they will happen, and what the outcome will be. But faith requires surrender. It requires letting go of the need to figure everything out and trusting that God already has it figured out. It is a shift in mindset from carrying the burden of our future. Jesus himself said in Matthew 6:27, "Can any one of you by worrying add a single hour to your life?" Worry does not change the outcome, but faith does. Faith aligns us with God's timing. It keeps us positioned for the blessings He has prepared. The greatest breakthroughs often come when we stop stressing about when they will come. When we trust God fully, we move in peace instead of panic. We make decisions with wisdom instead of desperation. We become more aware of the opportunities God is presenting rather than being distracted by the ones that have not yet arrived. God does not respond to worry, He responds to faith. He moves when we believe, not when we stress. That is why Jesus constantly told people to fear not before performing miracles. He knew that fear blocks blessings, but faith makes room for them. Fear also distorts our vision. It makes us believe that if something does not happen quickly, it will never happen. But God does not operate on human timelines. What may seem delayed is not denied. What may feel like a setback is often a setup for something greater. Faith reminds us that even when things are not happening in our preferred timing, God's timing is still perfect. It helps us stay confident, knowing that when the right door opens, it will be the best door. When we trust God fully, we stop striving and start resting. We stop trying to force things and start allowing His plan to unfold naturally. Faith is an active choice. It is choosing every day to believe that God is making a way, even when we do not see the way. It is choosing to focus on His promises rather than the problems. It is choosing to speak life instead of doubt, to declare blessings instead of fear, and to walk with confidence instead of worry. The more we focus on faith, the less power fear has over us. The more we trust in what God is doing, the more we will see his hand moving in our lives. Worry only delays our peace, but faith positions us for everything God has already prepared. Waiting is one of the most challenging seasons in life because it requires patience, faith, and trust in something that is not yet visible. When we are waiting for a breakthrough, a new opportunity, a relationship, or a change in circumstances, it is easy to feel restless and anxious. We start questioning whether things will ever happen and if God has forgotten about us. But waiting is not a wasted season. It is a season of preparation. It is the time when God is shaping, refining, and equipping us for what is coming. When we understand this, we stop seeing waiting as a delay and start seeing it as a divine process that is necessary for growth. Many people fail to recognize the importance of preparation while they wait. They spend their waiting season complaining, doubting, or simply doing nothing, expecting God to open doors without putting in any effort. But faith is not just about waiting. It is about preparing while you wait. It is about using this time to grow in wisdom, to develop the skills needed for the next level, and to strengthen your relationship with God. The reality is that God will never give us something we are not ready for. He is not going to open a door if stepping through it would cause us to stumble. That is why he often uses the waiting period to prepare us for what is ahead. A farmer does not sit idly after planting seeds. He waters them, nurtures the soil, and makes sure the conditions are right for growth. If he simply planted the seeds and walked away without tending to them, the harvest would not come. In the same way, if we do nothing while we wait for God to move, we may not be ready when the opportunity finally arrives. If you are waiting for a new job, use this time to improve your skills. Learn and prepare yourself so that when the door opens, you can walk through it with confidence. If you are waiting for the right relationship, use this time to become the best version of yourself so that when the right person comes along, you are ready to build something strong and lasting. If you are waiting for financial blessings, use this time to learn financial wisdom, to be a good steward of what you already have, so that when the increase comes, you can handle it wisely. The waiting season is also a test of faith. It reveals whether we truly trust God, or if we only trust him when things happen quickly. It teaches us patience, endurance, and dependence on God rather than our own understanding. Many times, people give up too soon because they do not see immediate results. They lose faith and stop preparing because they assume nothing is happening. But what they do not realize is that the preparation season is part of God's process. What seems like a delay is often God making sure that everything is in place at the right time. Think about David before he became king. He was anointed at a young age, but he did not immediately step into the throne. Instead, he spent years as a shepherd, learning to lead, protect, and fight battles. That season of preparation made him the strong and wise leader he later became. If he had become king before he was ready, he might not have been able to handle the responsibility. The same principle applies to us. There is a reason why certain things have not happened yet. God is preparing you, strengthening you, and positioning you for what is ahead. Many people want the reward without the preparation. They want the success without the discipline, the opportunity without the effort, the blessings without the growth. But without preparation, even the best opportunities can be wasted. If a door opened for you right now, would you truly be ready? Would you have the wisdom, the character, and the strength to handle it? That is why preparation is necessary. It ensures that when God blesses you, you can sustain and multiply that blessing rather than losing it. Preparation also requires the right mindset. If you spend your waiting season in doubt, fear, or negativity, you will not be ready when the time comes. But if you spend it in faith, growth, and expectation, you will step into your next season fully equipped. The way you wait determines how you receive. That is why God often uses this time to teach patience, humility, and discipline. He does not want to give you something that you are not yet prepared to handle. The waiting season is not just about receiving, it is about becoming. It is about allowing God to shape you into the person who is ready for the next level. Every great leader, every successful person, every person who has walked into a season of blessing had a season of preparation first. If you are waiting for something in your life, do not see it as a delay. See it as a time to get ready, to sharpen your skills, to grow in wisdom, and to align yourself with God's plan. When the time is right, the door will open, and you will walk into it fully prepared. There are moments in life when it feels like nothing is changing. You pray, you wait, you do everything you know to do, yet the doors you want to open remain closed. It is in these times that doubt tries to creep in. You may begin to wonder if God has forgotten about you, or if he is even listening at all. But the truth is, God's silence is never his absence. Just because you do not see movement does not mean that he is not working behind the scenes. God operates in ways that are beyond human understanding. He does not move according to our schedules or our expectations. He moves according to his perfect plan. Sometimes the reason you do not see anything happening is because he is arranging things in the background, preparing circumstances, and aligning people in ways you cannot yet comprehend. What seems like a delay is often divine timing at work. Think about a construction site. If you drive past a building being constructed, there are days when it looks like nothing is happening, but that does not mean progress has stopped. The foundation may already be laid, but the structural framework needs time to be put together. The workers might be behind the scenes, making adjustments that are necessary for the building to be strong and secure. If the process is rushed, the structure will not be able to stand the test of time. In the same way, when God is preparing something for you, he takes his time to make sure it is built to last. God's ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Many times we think we are ready for something when in reality we are not. We only see a small portion of the picture, but God sees the entire journey. If he opened the door right now, would you be ready? Would you have the wisdom, patience, and strength to handle what is on the other side? Sometimes God's timing is not just about bringing the right opportunity, but about making sure you are the right person to step into it. When it feels like nothing is happening, it is important to keep trusting. Trust is not based on what you see, it is based on who God is. He is faithful and he always fulfills his promises. Just because the breakthrough has not come yet does not mean it is not on the way. Abraham had to wait for years before he saw the promise of a child fulfilled. Joseph spent years in prison before he was elevated to a position of power. David was anointed as king long before he actually sat on the throne. Every person who has ever received a great blessing from God had to go through a period of waiting and trusting. One of the hardest parts of waiting is resisting the urge to take matters into your own hands. When things are not happening as quickly as we want, it is tempting to try to force something to work. But when we move ahead of God's timing, we can end up making things harder for ourselves. There is a difference between stepping forward in faith and rushing ahead in impatience. Faith means taking action in alignment with God's guidance, but impatience means trying to control something that is meant to unfold in its own time. God does not want you to struggle or stress over what He has already planned for you. He wants you to rest in the assurance that He has everything under control. When you trust in His timing, you stop worrying about what you cannot see. You stop comparing your journey to others because you know that your path is unique. You stop feeling anxious about the future because you understand that God has already prepared the way. Faith is not about seeing immediate results. It is about believing that results are coming even when there is no visible proof. The seed that is planted underground does not sprout overnight, but that does not mean growth is not happening. It is being nourished, strengthened, and developed before it finally breaks through the surface. The same is true for the blessings God has for you. Just because you do not see them yet does not mean they are not growing. God's timing is always perfect, even when it does not align with your expectations. The delays, the waiting periods, and the moments of uncertainty are not wasted time. They are moments of preparation, strengthening, and refining. When the time is right, the door will open and everything you have been waiting for will come together in a way that only God could orchestrate. The key is to trust, to remain faithful, and to keep moving forward with confidence, knowing that He is working even when you cannot see it. When God opens a door for you, no force in the world can shut it. There is no person, no situation, no obstacle that can stand in the way of what God has destined for your life. The problem is that many people spend too much time worrying about opposition instead of focusing on the power of God. They look at the challenges, the delays, the people who doubt them, and they start to believe that those things have the power to stop them. But when God is on your side, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. The doors He opens are not dependent on human approval. They are not limited by circumstances or controlled by the opinions of others. When He says it is time, nothing can hold you back. Many times people allow fear and doubt to convince them that they are not ready for the opportunities God is bringing. They hesitate, they question, they second-guess themselves because they are afraid of failure. But if God has opened a door, He has already equipped you to walk through it. He does not call you to something without also giving you the strength, the wisdom, and the ability to succeed in it. The enemy would love for you to believe that you are not ready, that you are not qualified, that you are not good enough. But God does not choose people based on human standards. He chooses people based on His purpose. Throughout the Bible, He used the least expected people to accomplish great things. Moses doubted his ability to speak, but God used him to lead an entire nation. Gideon saw himself as weak, but God called him a mighty warrior. David was overlooked, but God chose him to be king. The moment you stop doubting yourself and start believing that God's power is greater than your limitations, you will step into the doors He has prepared for you with confidence. It is also important to recognize that when God opens a door, it does not mean the journey will be easy. Some people assume that if an opportunity is from God, there will be no resistance, but that is not how faith works. Just because the door is open does not mean you will not have to fight to walk through it. There will be challenges, there will be tests, and there will be moments when you wonder if you are on the right path. But every battle you face is an opportunity to grow stronger, to develop endurance, and to deepen your faith. God does not just want to bless you, He wants to build you. He wants to prepare you so that when you step into your next level, you are ready to handle the weight of the blessing. Sometimes when God opens a door, it does not look the way we expected. We have an idea of how things should happen. And when the opportunity comes in a different form, we hesitate. We question whether it is really from God because it does not match our vision. But God's ways are higher than our ways. What may seem small or insignificant at first may actually be the very thing that leads to something greater. Do not reject an open door just because it does not look the way you thought it would. Pray for discernment. Ask God to give you clarity, to show you whether this is the path He wants you to take. Do not allow preconceived ideas to cause you to miss what He is doing in your life. Another mistake people make is trying to force doors open instead of allowing God to open them in His timing. They push, they manipulate, they try to make things happen on their own, and in the process, they end up stepping into something they were never meant to enter. Just because a door looks good does not mean it is the right door. Some opportunities may seem appealing, but they are distractions meant to pull you away from God's plan. If you have to compromise your values, if you have to force it to work, if you have no peace about it, then it may not be a door that God has opened. When God opens a door, there is peace, there is alignment, and there is confirmation. It does not mean there will be no challenges, but there will be a deep sense of knowing that this is where you are supposed to be. Walking through the doors that God opens requires boldness. It requires stepping out in faith even when you do not have all the answers. It requires trusting that if God brought you to this opportunity, He will also give you everything you need to succeed. Do not let fear hold you back. Do not let past failures keep you from moving forward. Do not let the opinions of others make you doubt what God has placed in your. The doors He opens are meant for you, and no one can take them away. It is up to you to walk through them with faith, knowing that He has already made a way.